This is a story about the bystander effect, why people fail to act in emergencies. It was 8:42 p.m. when Sarah stumbled into the subway station. The day had chewed her up and spat her out. Deadlines missed, texts ignored, life a relentless blur. She barely registered the man crumpled on the floor near the platform edge. At first glance, he could have been anyone, a drunk, a sleeper, a shadow in the chaos. She hesitated but didn't stop. Neither did the dozens of other commuters around her. Some glanced his way, their eyes darting back as if the sight burned. Others walked by without even turning their heads. Sarah's stomach twisted. "He's fine," she told herself. "Someone will check." But nobody did. She leaned against a pillar, her thoughts warring. The man groaned faintly, his voice swallowed by the station's hum. The train roared in the distance. A man in a sharp suit paused, looked down, shook his head, and moved on. A group of teenagers laughed nervously as they skirted the scene, their sneakers squeaking on the tile. Sarah couldn't tear her gaze away. Why isn't anyone helping? Then the voice in her head struck back. Why aren't you? The train lights blazed down the tunnel, painting the station in harsh white. The man shifted, his hand flailing weakly toward the tracks. Sarah's breath hitched. He wasn't just some drunk, he was in danger. "Hey!" she called out, her voice cracking. Heads turned, startled by her outburst, but they didn't move. Their expressions ranged from blank to vaguely annoyed, as if her shout was more offensive than the man's condition. The train was closer now, the sound rattling her bones. She darted forward, her bag slipping from her shoulder. Her heart pounded as she knelt beside him. His eyes fluttered open, unfocused. "Help!" he croaked. Behind her she heard murmurs. "Is she okay? What's she doing? Should we call someone?" Nobody stepped in. Nobody moved. The train was too close. She grabbed the man's arm, tugging with all her strength. His body was heavier than she expected, dead weight that seemed impossible to budge. Her fingers dug into his jacket as the roar of the train filled her ears. Finally, with one last heave, she dragged him back just as the train thundered past, the wind whipping her hair. She collapsed beside him, her chest heaving. A slow clap echoed through the station, not from gratitude but from sarcasm. A young man leaned against the wall, smirking. "Guess we've got a hero here?" She glared at him, her adrenaline boiling into anger. "Where were you?" she snapped. Her voice rang louder than the train's departure. "Where were any of you?" The crowd shifted uncomfortably, some looking at their shoes, others avoiding her gaze altogether. The man on the ground coughed weakly, and she turned back to him, her hands trembling. It was then she realized how close he'd come to dying, and how close she'd come to letting him. The bystander effect wasn't just a theory. It was a silent epidemic, spreading apathy in the moments that mattered most. And in that instant, Sarah swore she'd never be part of it again.